Welcome to the Revenue Builders Podcast with John McMahon and John Kaplan. This podcast is brought to you by the team at Force Management. In this segment, we revisit our conversation with Mark Roberge, author of the upcoming book, The Science of Scaling. Many of you know Mark, and here he breaks down why so many companies fail to evolve their ideal customer profile despite changing market conditions, and reveals this surprising truth. It's often emotional decision-making, not data, holding them back. Here we go.
That's right, Mark. I want to go back to ICP. You treat the ICP in the book. And again, we're talking to Mark Roberge about his brand new book due out February 3rd called The Science of Scaling. And you treat, ICP as a scientific input into scaling, essentially. But what I got to understand is, why don't so many companies build an ICP? And then to Cap's point, the market changes, competition changes, your product is constantly changing, and they don't go and change their ICP. To me, it's like you're constantly going through, if you do it right, constantly changing your ICP and constantly looking to see whether or not there's real product market fit in different companies and use cases.
I have a hypothesis. Can I try, Mark?
Go.
Because I look at this, I do this for a living for the last 20 years, and I find that if it's emotional, and ICP is emotional, and it's not backed by data, real data, that's the fundamental principle that I see. Because if you have people like me, you guys are a little bit more scientific than me, that can will their way to selling things, and no customer is a bad customer, and we can sell something to, this customer. If you don't have the data to support what actually happens from that revenue from that customer, I think that's fundamentally, like you said, people are chasing revenue versus ideal states. That's my hypothesis, and I think it's supported in your book.
It's so hard because I think a great ICP is based on LTV, not lowest CAC. And that's where a lot of people get that messed
just
up.
For some of our young listeners or some of our early people, would you mind kind of defining what that is?
Yeah, so it's just like a lot of people, and there is an intuition there, but when you really think about it, it's a broken intuition, which is like, okay, what's our ideal customer profile? Some people might say it's where our inbound demand is, whoever's coming. And it's like, that's scary because that's not necessarily correlated to who you built the product for and who's going to end up being a successful customer. And the next level of answer is like, oh, it's wherever we have the highest close rates, which usually would correlate with a lower customer acquisition cost, right? CAC. And again, like only true if that's a great customer that's going to stick around. It really needs to be around lifetime value. It really needs to be that the ICP is based on segments of the market where when people buy it, they see tremendous value, they renew, they expand, and they tell their friends. And sometimes those companies are not necessarily the highest inbound demand to your website. And sometimes they're not the easiest to sell, i.e. have the lowest cost of acquisition. But like it really needs to be around LTV. Okay. And it's a cool thing because I do talk about at the end, I had to write an appendix about how AI will change these concepts.
Yeah.
And I still wanted to write the book because these are not like post AI irrelevant. These are principles that will need to be built into the models. And I'm very excited about how AI will guide this ICP piece. And I actually write a little bit about it. So, Mac, what you saw in there was like, I took a little deeper view on the ICP. And so I basically set up this green, yellow, red framework that I use with a lot of companies. And basically what you're picturing here, folks, is like, you have like 5 to 8 attributes of your ICP. It's common to have like company size, location, industry, stuff like that. So like we might have 5 in there. Okay, so let's just work with 3 to keep it simple. It's like they're in the US, they're between 50 mil and 500 mil, and then we'll deal with healthcare and finance just to have a working model. Okay, so that is our green ICP. Our red is like green is like we want to sell these, we'll take them all day. If we're going to build an email campaign, we're going after them. If we're going to build a cold calling campaign, we're going after those people. Red is you cannot sell these people. If you sell them, we'll rip up the contract. So like if they're in Europe and Asia, we're not ready for it. If they're in manufacturing, we're not ready for it. If they have over 500 million in revenue, we're not ready for it. We're ripping it up.
Yep.
But then like the yellow is like, we're not sure, like it's probably going to be where we're going to go next. But if someone comes up to our trade show booth and says, I've been looking for this my entire life, how do I sign up? Or if someone comes as an inbound lead and they're like, this is our number one issue this year, and they're in the yellow, maybe they're in the tech sector, maybe they have 40 million in revenue, not 50, so they're close. Then we can sell those people. And that allows us to create a structure where we can explore the periphery of the ICP to naturally expand. And that's what Degnan talks about at Snowflake, Mac, through your guidance. When I asked him, like, when do you go upstream? He's like, you're pulled up.
Yes.
He's like, that's what happened to us is we were selling SMB mid-market to the smaller sectors you were talking about, Mac. And then once they hit 5, 6, 7 in revenue, they had these early adopter enterprises come in.
Yes.
And that was in the yellow for them. And they're like, okay, you know what? We'll give this a shot.
Right. And your point is we're not going to have our sales reps target the red or the yellow. But if a customer comes to us and almost like wants to buy, sure, okay, we'll make the effort.
And then we wake up.
You guys are making an assumption, which I love, but what you just said, Johnny, is we have a red and the sellers aren't going to sell to it. But in reality, like when we go into these things and I ask a question, what's your ideal customer profile? And if I'm lucky enough to get it, then I get it. And then I look at the pipeline and I'm telling you, it's right there. And so what advice do you have? Yeah, they're in the red.
It's right there. It's in the red.
They're right there. So Mark, like, let's say like in a framework example, where you're laying it down like an X-ray and wherever you are, there you go. And you see a pipeline like this, you're talking to existing customers. Let's say you didn't do this, sequentially. And you are, there you go. What do you do as a company, as a total company, not just at the leadership, sales, marketing, you got to readjust.
To prevent it, or if you wake up now and you realize you effed it up, and what do you do now?
Wake up.
Yeah, sure. So you fix it at that moment, right? So like I've never seen a company where we're starting out, we're pursuing product market fit, and we do our ICP. We do that with every company. I've never seen a company where that initial hypothesis is right and stayed, even for the first year.
Yes.
Like it's just, we don't know. And once we start going in there, 12, 2, 3 customers, we start to see the patterns. It's like, oh my gosh, we totally missed that. Like it turns out that like there's a critical component of the tech stack that we're not ready for. So we have to put these people into the non-ICP. So you'll see in the frameworks there that when we're measuring the pursuit of product market fit as measured by the LIR, we push out some early customers who are no longer ICP. And you can just, and then, so when you're measuring the LIR and you're only measuring on the current ICP. So that would be my answer, Cap, is
love it.
Nail it down now, separate your install base into ICP and not, and then like on the not, like just put them over here. Maybe if you run like an account manager ratio of like, one account manager to 30 accounts, whatever it is, just run it as a one account manager to 200 over there. You know what I mean? Like just, we're not going to ignore them, but we're going to model a pretty bad churn.
This is an important part right here. I love what you're saying, because if you are down the line, and this has happened to Force Management a few times in the 20 years of our existence, I found it very important from a leadership perspective to communicate effectively the science behind what you're doing as a company. And I have not had one company come back and like think we were jerks because somebody was not in our
critical.
ICP. But when you don't talk that way, because no customer wants to buy something that is not, if you're not going to serve me as if I'm your ideal customer, nobody wants to be in that red area.
Right. Exactly.
But the sellers listen, all sales leaders listen. What most people do is they just stop calling on those accounts. They stop supporting them, or they stop. And then all of a sudden you get a bad reputation in the marketplace. You're not following up. You're So
Yeah, you need a little something. It's a very difficult place to be because
it is.
even like a lot of people make so many mistakes. They try to save every customer, even though we've decided they're no longer a fit. We can't afford that churn. You just got to like wipe off the, rip off the
Rip the
Band-Aid. But
Band-Aid.
again, you have just like a lower version. You have some people there to see what they can do. You're going to forecast a much higher churn rate there. And you will wake up a year from now where if you listen to this and you're like, oh, damn, and you carved it up and 60% were an ICP and 40% weren't, and you put the right ratios on the 60% and all the future quarters only sell into that ICP,
Good.
you will wake up a year from now and 95% will be in the ICP and 5% won't. And I get it, Cap. Like it's
So
tough
good.
because there's going to be a bunch of customers out there like, I tried it and it didn't work. And there's nothing you can really do about that other
So
than being crisp about who you're for.
love that. Thank you for that.
The huge benefit that we're not talking about right now is that this isn't only about sales and selling. This, when you do the ICP right, and you have product market fit, it rallies the entire company from a marketing standpoint. They know what the salespeople are talking about. It rallies development when they're prioritizing what features and capabilities should be in the next releases. That's a huge part of this that I don't think most people really take into account. And that's why it's so important to have an ICP and truly understand product market fit and where you, to your point, Mark, creating value for that customer.
There's a reason why I didn't call it the sales system. I call it the go-to-market system.
Yes.
Well
There's a
done.
reason why I didn't call it sales market fit. I called it go-to-market fit because the sales team is part of the go-to-market team.
Totally.
The go-to-market team is how we create demand, marketing, SDRs, how we sell that demand, sales, how we retain that demand and expand that demand, CSM, account managers, RevOps is supporting us, sales name. Like that's the whole system. And those have to be looked at holistically. That was a massive movement in the cloud era that helped companies, separate themselves.
Thanks for listening to today's episode. If you enjoy the content, please subscribe, rate, and review the show to help us reach more people. This show is brought to you by Force Management, where we help companies improve sales performance, executing the growth strategy at the point of sale. Check out forcemanagement.com for more information.